The recycled air tasted like broken promises and alien betrayal. Not that I had much experience with either until about 6 hours ago, when I woke up from my maintenance shift nap to find myself alone on Research Station Gamma 9. Well, not entirely alone. I still had the blinking emergency lights and the gentle hum of failing life support systems to keep me company. "Computer, station status report," I called out for the 20th time, hoping for a different answer. "Station operating at 23% capacity. All crew departed via emergency protocols at 0400 hours. Estimated life support duration, 72 hours. I laughed. The sound echoed through the empty corridors like a drunk hiccup in a cathedral. "Thanks for the wake-up call, everyone. Really appreciate the team spirit here." The maintenance console in front of me displayed the last system checks, all performed while I was unconscious. Those scaly bastards had planned this, probably giggling with their weird mandibles while they pumped sedatives through the ventilation system in my work area. Must have calculated the exact dose needed to keep the human repair monkey down just long enough for them to evacuate. "Computer, play last command log." The holographic display flickered to life, showing Chief Science Officer Zexital's smug face. Those compound eyes couldn't hide the satisfaction in his voice. "Emergency Protocol Delta 7 initiated. Human biological contamination contained. Specimen isolated to prevent further infection risk to pure research environment." "Specimen?" I snorted, kicking my toolbox. "I fixed your quantum fluctuator last week, you ungrateful lizard." A quick inventory of my situation revealed the full scope of their containment plan. They'd locked down all escape pods, encrypted the main computer's core functions, and, just to add insult to potentially fatal injury, eaten all the good snacks from the mess hall. Only the vending machine with those horrible protein bars remained untouched. Even desperate aliens had standards, apparently, but they'd made one critical mistake. They'd left behind the one person who knew this station's guts better than its designers. The same specimen who'd spent the last year crawling through every maintenance shaft, patching up their shoddy engineering and keeping detailed notes about every system weakness. Notes they clearly hadn't bothered to check before leaving me to die. I pulled up my personal tablet, thankfully still functioning, and started scrolling through my maintenance logs. Let's see. Critical system bypasses, emergency override protocols, that weird glitch in the waste recycling system that makes everything smell like roses on Tuesdays. A plan started forming in my mind, accompanied by a grin that would have sent those cowards running for their emergency pods all over again. "Computer, how long until life support fails?" 71 hours, 43 minutes remaining. Perfect. That's more than enough time to turn this research station into something they really should have been afraid of. I cracked my knuckles and got to work. Who's the specimen now? First rule of survival, know what you've got to work with. I spent the next few hours cataloguing every resource on the station, from the mundane to the mysterious. 3 functioning fabricators, 2 quantum processors, enough raw materials to build a small fleet, and, surprisingly, an untouched cache of experimental power cells in Lab 4. The aliens had left in such a hurry, they'd forgotten their most valuable toys. "Computer, display research facility blueprints, all levels." The holographic display lit up with a complex maze of interconnected chambers. Something wasn't right. The power consumption readings for the lower levels were off the charts, yet according to the public logs, they were just storage areas. "Computer, what's the actual purpose of Sub-Level 6? "Access denied. Security clearance required." I smiled. "Override Protocol Maintenance Alpha 9. Authorization code, Human Specimen 0. The computer paused, processing my mocking use of their designation for me. "Access granted. Sub-Level 6, Experimental Weapons Research and Development." Well, well, well. Turned out our peaceful research station was more interesting than advertised. The schematics revealed testing chambers, particle accelerators, and enough prototype weapons to start a small war. Or in my case, finish one. Digging deeper into the secure databases, I found their private logs. Chief Science Officer Zexital's entries were particularly enlightening. The human continues to serve its purpose, though its presence remains a constant source of contamination concern. These primitives lack the genetic purity required for true scientific advancement. The Council's insistence on maintaining diplomatic relations with Earth has forced us to tolerate this maintenance drone, but recent developments have provided an opportunity for permanent removal. I whistled. Maintenance drone, huh? Bold words from someone who couldn't figure out how to reset their own quantum stabilizer. The logs got better, or worse, depending on your perspective. The new containment protocols have proven successful in other facilities. Once the human is eliminated, we can proceed with Project Singularity without concern for potential intelligence leaks. These creatures barely understand basic space-time manipulation. The concept of weaponized reality distortion would be beyond their comprehension. I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. They weren't just conducting weapons research, they were developing something that violated every treaty in known space. And they'd tried to kill me to keep it secret. The next log entry sealed their fate. Secondary objective achieved. Human specimen successfully isolated. Primary objective continues. Weapons testing will resume at Facility Beta once decontamination is complete. The loss of one maintenance unit is negligible. Something clicked in my mind. The station's power grid, the experimental weapons, the quantum processors. They'd built the perfect weapons platform, and then handed it over to the one person they'd thoroughly underestimated. The irony was almost poetic. I pulled up the station's core systems on my tablet. Life support might be failing, but the weapons research labs were running at full power. Each system I'd repaired over the past year could be repurposed, transformed from its original function into something deadly. The waste management system could become a plasma distribution network. Environmental controls could be weaponized to create localized vacuum zones. Even the cleaning bots could be reprogrammed for less sanitary purposes. Computer, how many crew members were stationed here before evacuation? Total crew complement, 47 scientific personnel. And how many ships are typically assigned to emergency rescue operations? Standard Confederation rescue protocol requires minimum 3 vessels with full medical and security teams. Estimated personnel, 120 to 150 inches. Perfect. They'd come back, of course. A facility this valuable wouldn't be abandoned forever. They'd return with rescue ships, security teams, and probably a disposal crew to clean up what was left of their human problem. I cracked my neck and started downloading weapon schematics. Time to redecorate. Let's give them a proper welcome home party. The beauty of life support systems is that they're essentially weapons pointed in the wrong direction. Every mechanism designed to keep people alive can, with a little creative engineering, be used to achieve the opposite effect. I spent the next 12 hours doing exactly what I did best. Only this time, I wasn't fixing things. Computer, display environmental control schematics for Docking Bay 1. The holographic blueprint materialized, showing the complex network of atmospheric regulators. These systems normally maintained perfect pressure and breathable air, but with a few modifications. Rerouting atmospheric control through the emergency purge system, I muttered, fingers dancing across the control panel, and adding a lovely little trigger mechanism tied to airlock sensors. The first ship to dock would trigger a cascading depressurization sequence. The trick was making it look like a tragic accident. Nothing suspicious about a failing station having atmosphere problems, right? Next came the maintenance bots. Those little helpers had been my constant companions during repair work. Now they were getting an aggressive upgrade. I cracked open their primary control unit and started reprogramming. "You guys always wanted to be more useful," I said, soldering a new circuit board into the lead bot. "How about we give you some actual purpose, like, say, high-speed delivery of improvised explosive devices?" The bot chirped happily, completely unaware that it had just become a mobile bomb platform. I added proximity sensors and linked them to the station's security grid. Any unauthorized movement would send my little army of mechanical companions scurrying toward the intruders, ready to give them an explosive welcome. But the real masterpiece was what I did to the quantum research labs. Those experimental power cells I found. Turns out they were perfect for creating localized reality distortion fields, the kind that could turn corridors into physics-defying death traps. Computer, begin power rerouting sequence for sub-level 6. Warning, proposed power configuration exceeds safety parameters. I laughed. That's kind of the point. Override safety protocols, authorization code, soon-to-be-dead specimen. The computer complied, and the station's power grid transformed into something the designers never imagined. Each section became its own deadly puzzle box, waiting to be triggered. Motion sensors would activate gravity wells strong enough to crush bones. Security checkpoints would generate temporal loops, trapping intruders in moments of endless panic. For the central control room, I prepared something special. The quantum stabilizers, normally used to prevent reality tears during experiments, were reversed. Anyone trying to access the main computer would find themselves experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously. Not lethal, but definitely disorienting enough to make them easy targets for the other traps. Time check, computer? Life support systems will fail in 48 hours, 17 minutes. Good. Now let's work on that distress beacon. This was the delicate part. The signal had to be perfect, desperate enough to demand immediate response, but not so alarming that they'd arrive ready for combat. I spent 3 hours composing the message, recording multiple versions until I had exactly the right mix of panic and professionalism. Emergency broadcast Research Station Gamma 9, station experiencing critical systems failure following unexplained power surge. Multiple system malfunctions. Require immediate assistance. Warning. Approach with caution due to atmospheric instability. I layered in subtle corruptions, making it seem like the message was breaking down due to system failures. Added some background noise that, if analyzed, would confirm the severity of the station's problems. Everything about it screamed tragic accident rather than trap. The final touch was programming the station's external sensors to project false readings. Any scanning ships would detect exactly what I wanted them to see: a dying station with failing systems and one trapped crew member in need of rescue. I stepped back to admire my work. Every system had been converted, every safety measure twisted into a weapon. The station had become a layered death trap, each section designed to separate, isolate, and eliminate rescue teams with escalating efficiency. Computer, run simulation of emergency response scenario. The holographic display showed a step-by-step projection of how rescue teams would likely approach the station. Points of entry, probable search patterns, standard rescue protocols. I had a counter for each one. Probability of successful station defense against standard rescue operation. Based on current configurations, 89.7% effectiveness rate. Not bad, but not perfect. I spent the next few hours fine-tuning each system, closing gaps, adding redundancies. The station wasn't just dangerous now, it was methodically lethal, a precision instrument of revenge. Computer, begin broadcasting distress signal. As the beacon activated, I settled into my makeshift command center, surrounded by monitors showing every corner of my deadly maze. The maintenance bots stood ready, their new explosive additions gleaming. The quantum fields hummed with potential energy. Everything was perfect. Now, I said, watching the first pulses of the distress signal disappear into space, let's see who comes to rescue the specimen. The waiting game began. My distress signal pulsed through space, a siren song of desperation and deception. Every 30 minutes the message repeated, emergency, critical failure, require immediate assistance. Each word carefully chosen to project helplessness. Poor, trapped human specimen, desperately awaiting rescue. From my command center, I watched the surveillance feeds I'd rigged throughout the station. Monitors displayed every corridor, every chamber, every possible entry point. The maintenance bots patrolled silently, their new explosive additions armed and ready. Everything was in place, yet something gnawed at my conscience. Computer, replay Chief Science Officer's last log entry. The smug voice filled the room. The human specimen has served its purpose. Its elimination will ensure the security of our research. My fingers traced the edge of my tablet. Tell me, computer, how many other research stations have eliminated their human workers? Searching databases. 3 confirmed incidents in the past solar cycle, all classified as accidents. 3 stations. How many humans had they murdered to keep their illegal weapons research secret? The number turned my stomach, but it also crystallized something in my mind. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about preventing more deaths. I pulled up the tactical display, checking my prepared positions one last time. The quantum fields in the lower levels were stable, ready to turn corridors into reality-bending traps. Environmental controls stood ready to create zones of lethal pressure differentials. Even the cleaning robots had been reprogrammed into deadly efficient hunter-killers. Computer, estimated time until first rescue attempt? Based on signal propagation and nearest Confederation outpost location, approximately 6 hours. 6 hours, time enough for doubt to creep in, for the moral implications of my plan to weigh heavily on my conscience. These rescue teams, they might not even know what the station was really for. They might be innocent of the conspiracy that had left me here to die. But then I remembered the logs, the casual contempt in their voices when they discussed humans. This wasn't just one rogue research team. It was systematic, a deliberate policy of using and disposing of humans while developing weapons that violated every treaty in known space. Computer, display casualty projections for Project Singularity weapons if successfully deployed. Calculating. Estimated civilian casualties in a major population center, minimum 100,000 per device. The number hung in the air like a judgment. My traps suddenly seemed inadequate compared to the horror they were planning. This station, these weapons, they had to be destroyed, along with everyone who knew about them. I made final adjustments to the surveillance grid, adding redundancies to ensure nothing would escape documentation. Every death, every moment would be recorded, proof of what they'd done and why this had to happen. Computer, begin recording all feeds. Archive everything. Recording initiated. Warning, life support systems will fail in 42 hours. I smiled grimly. Won't need that long. How many escape pods did they leave functional? 0 functional escape pods remaining. Perfect. No one leaves this time. Computer, activate final protocol. Lock down all external communications except distress beacon. The station hummed around me, a symphony of deadly intentions disguised as mechanical failure. Soon they would come, confident in their superiority, certain of their ability to handle one stranded human. Let them come. I settled into my command chair, surrounded by screens showing every angle of my trap. You know what the funny thing is, computer? They were right about one thing. I'm just a maintenance worker. I fix things, and right now, I'm fixing a very big problem. The first proximity alert flashed on my screen. Something was approaching. The first rescue ship appeared exactly as I predicted, a standard Confederation medical vessel, approaching with cautious concern. Their scan patterns swept across the station, finding exactly what I wanted them to see. Failing systems, unstable power signatures, and one faint human life sign. Incoming transmission, the computer announced. Gamma 9, this is Medical Transport Helios. We've received your distress signal and are moving to dock. Please acknowledge. I cleared my throat, putting on my best desperate but professional voice. Helios, thank God. Systems are failing faster than I can repair them. Main power grid is destabilizing. Request immediate evacuation. The ship docked with practiced precision. Through the surveillance feeds, I watched their boarding party, 6 crew members in environmental suits. Standard rescue protocol. As they breached the airlock, I initiated the first sequence. Warning, their suit computers would be announcing. Environmental systems unstable. Proceed with caution. They moved exactly as their training dictated, splitting into 3 teams of 2. Perfect. The first team headed toward life support, straight into the path of my reprogrammed maintenance bots. The second team moved toward the command center, where the quantum fields waited. The third began a systematic sweep of crew quarters. I activated my command console. Let the games begin. The first team never saw the maintenance bots coming. One moment they were checking atmospheric readings. The next they were surrounded by a swarm of previously innocent cleaning devices. The explosion was precise, contained just enough to breach their suits and introduce them to the joys of unexpected depressurization. Computer, status of Team 2? Approaching quantum field perimeter. I watched as they hit the invisible barrier. Reality twisted around them, their suits registering impossible readings as space itself bent according to my reprogrammed equations. Their screams cut off as the temporal loop engaged, trapping them in an endless moment of realization. The third team reacted to their comrades' distress calls, rushing to help. They triggered the gravity traps in the corridors, their bodies crushed against the ceiling before being slammed to the floor. Not lethal. I needed survivors to spread the word. Confederation emergency channel activated, the computer reported. Helios broadcasting distress signal. Right on schedule. I let their signal transmit just long enough to bring the next wave. Within an hour, 3 more ships appeared. These were security vessels, their weapons hot, their approach more aggressive. Welcome to round 2, I muttered, initiating the second phase. The security teams were better prepared, but it didn't matter. Each countermeasure they deployed triggered a new trap. EMP bursts meant to disable my systems instead activated the plasma distribution network, filling entire sections with superheated gas. Their attempts to hack the computer core triggered recursive feedback loops in their neural interfaces. Through it all, I watched from my command center, directing my symphony of destruction. The maintenance bots prowled the corridors, picking off isolated team members. The quantum fields expanded and contracted, turning escape routes into death traps. Every system they tried to shut down revealed a new horror. "Sir," one commander transmitted to his ship. "The station. It's not malfunctioning. It's hunting us." The panic spread beautifully. Each escaped survivor carried tales of horror back to their ships. Each failed rescue attempt made the next one more desperate, more reckless. They started making mistakes, ignoring procedures, rushing into situations they should have approached with caution. By the 6th hour, the space around Gamma 9 was crowded with Confederation vessels. Their scans became increasingly frantic as they realized the true nature of their situation. Every attempt to breach the station met with calculated violence. Every probe revealed another layer of deadly innovation. "Incoming transmission from Confederation Command," the computer announced. "Station Gamma 9, a new voice declared. "This is Fleet Commander Xanthor. Power down your defensive systems immediately." I recognized that voice, one of the senior officials from the project logs. "I'm afraid I can't do that, Commander. You see, I've been reading some very interesting research files. Project Singularity, ring any bells?" The silence that followed was deeply satisfying. "You don't understand what you're interfering with," Xanthor finally responded. "That research is vital to—" "To what? Galactic peace? Funny how peaceful weapons that can destroy entire cities are. Now would you like to discuss the real reason you left me here to die?" More ships were arriving, bigger ones, warships. They were taking me seriously now, finally understanding that they weren't dealing with a mere maintenance worker anymore. "Computer, how many vessels currently in range?" 17 Confederation ships detected. Estimated personnel, 850. I smiled. More than I'd hoped for. All the major players in one place, drawn by their own arrogance and panic. "You know what the really ironic part is?" I broadcast to the gathered fleet. "Everything I've done here, every trap, every weapon, every deadly innovation, I learned from your research. Consider this a practical demonstration of Project Singularity's potential. Now, shall we begin the final test?" I activated the last sequence, the one I'd spent the most time perfecting. Throughout the station, reality itself began to unravel, exactly as their weapons were designed to do. But this time, there would be no containing the effect. "Welcome to the experiment, gentlemen. Don't worry. You're all about to become part of something much bigger than yourselves." The command ship that dropped out of hyperspace was exactly what I'd been waiting for. Through the viewport, I recognized the distinctive markings of Research Division Command. Chief Science Officer Zexatal had finally arrived to clean up his mess. Computer, open broadcast channel. Human specimen, Zexatal's voice filled the command center, dripping with forced diplomacy. Perhaps we can discuss this rationally. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. Oh, we're well past misunderstandings. I activated the main display, projecting their secret research logs to every ship in the vicinity. Project Singularity, weapons testing, systematic elimination of human workers. Did I misunderstand any of that? The silence was delicious. I could almost hear the panic spreading through the fleet as regular crew members learned what their superiors had been hiding. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Zexatal hissed, dropping the diplomatic act. That station's systems are beyond your comprehension. I laughed, triggering the final sequence. Throughout the station, reality began to buckle. The quantum fields I'd modified started to merge, creating exactly the effect their weapons program had been pursuing. Funny thing about maintenance workers, we read manuals, all of them, even the ones we're not supposed to find. The station's power core began to pulse with impossible energy. Want to know what I learned from yours? How to turn an entire research station into one massive reality bomb. Alarms blared across the fleet. Their sensors must have been going crazy as space itself began to distort around Gamma 9. The effect was spreading, exactly as their weapon was designed to do, but on a scale they'd never dared attempt. "You'll kill yourself," Zexatal shouted. "Already did that, remember? When you left me here to die. Now we're just making it official." I watched as ships began to panic, trying to escape the growing distortion field. But don't worry, you'll all have front-row seats for the grand finale. The quantum cascade was reaching critical mass. Reality itself was beginning to tear apart around the station. Through the surveillance feeds, I could see the beautiful chaos of their own weapon turned against them. "You were right about one thing," I broadcast to the fleet. "Humans really don't understand quantum physics like you do. We just understand karma a whole lot better." The command ship tried to fire, but it was too late. The distortion field had grown too strong. The last thing I saw was Zexatal's face, finally showing the fear he should have had for humanity all along. Computer, initiate final protocol, poetic justice. The station's core went critical, reality collapsed, and in that final moment I smiled. They'd wanted to test their weapons on innocent populations. Instead, they'd get to experience it firsthand. And sometimes the best maintenance work requires a complete system reset.